What gets you stuck in a cycle of overthinking?
Mainly the things I should have done differently a while back and that are obviously too late now to change.
So almost like past regrets?
Yes, yes. And then imagining what would be now if I had done something differently in the past.
So almost imagining the different pathways you could have gone down if you'd chosen things differently.
Exactly, yeah, the road not taken, except I'm now inventing lots of different roads that I could have taken.
So when you're stuck overthinking, what kind of things go through your head?
Um, what, yeah, why I did it at the time, what I know now, what I should have done, those sorts of regrets, really.
Really hard, and it sounds like you end up in quite self-critical thinking.
Yes, yeah, extremely sort of completely overthinking it, and then sort of, yeah, stuck thinking about it again, adding another little bit on the next time.
And being really tough on yourself. Has it ever got in the way of you doing anything you've wanted to, or in the way of living your life?
I think it might have done occasionally, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And when it comes to overthinking, what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Imagine what other people, well, stop to think what advice you would, or be kinder to yourself, and then think what advice you would give somebody else if it wasn't you who was having these thoughts. You'd probably be a bit more practical about it and a bit more forgiving.
I love that, and I completely agree. Have you got a question you'd like to ask me?
What other tips would you give somebody who's an overthinker?
I think that regret is such a hard one because it brings in so many difficult emotions like shame and sadness and worry. And so when you're stuck in it, it's going back through things and replaying it. But in a way, it's presuming that you did make the wrong choice. And yet, I think in life, we make the choice at the time based on what we know, and hindsight can be really cruel and leave us seeing things in different ways. And in my experience working with lots of different people, there's not one set way to go. There's not a right decision to make at each pathway. There's just multiple ways you can go, and both have good points and harder points. And there's no kind of easy route where it all works out perfectly. And I think knowing that takes away from this idea that we've got things wrong, because it isn't ever a wrong decision. It's just making the best of what you decided at the time based on what you knew then. And your advice is so good, to be kinder to yourself, but also to remember hindsight's really cruel. You didn't have all of that information at the time. It can look different when you look back on it. And that going over the past and those regrets and recriminations, the only place it gets you is feeling worse. Much better to focus on where you are now and making the best of your current position.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, and that key thing, I suppose, that there isn't a right or a wrong. It isn't one or the other. One isn't necessarily the right one or the wrong one. It was just better in the moment, or the right thing in the moment.
Exactly. And I think that the idea we can get things right brings some comfort, and an idea that we can control life, but life just doesn't really work like that. And sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes that can be difficult.
Yeah, and you also don't know how the other decision would have played out either. So, sort of, that is also getting the benefit of hindsight. The decision not taken seems to be the easier one because you didn't live through it.
Exactly that. Thank you so much.
Welcome, thank you.
Talking to Helen, it was really clear that when you dwell on these things from your past, it totally undoes how you feel about yourself and leaves room for self-criticism and self-doubt. And this thinking style is so common when we go back over our mistakes and failures and wake up in the night and remember something from 3 years ago, or question the decisions we've made. One strategy I recommend in my clinic is that if you've done something and 90% of it was good, you should be spending 90% of your time thinking about that good bit, not 90% of your time thinking about the 10% you're unhappy with. And when you do that, you have a much fairer picture of what's going on in your life, and it lets you let go of past mistakes or things that you're unhappy with, and lets you see all the good stuff you're doing. When that self-criticism comes in, it just makes you feel so much worse. And that's why I loved Helen's idea of what you can do in those situations, thinking about how you might speak to a friend. I think in addition to that, it's really important to be compassionate to ourselves too, It feels like self-criticism is what gets things done, but all the research shows the opposite is the case. Actually, it feels paralyzing. It makes you feel terrible about yourself, and you just left feeling worse. Whereas when you bring in self-compassion and speak to yourself more kindly and are more encouraging and don't let yourself dwell on those past experiences, it can make such a difference in focusing forward on what's ahead of you in your life.